can I get you in the right position? Can I set you up for success in that movement? So can we get you in there? If we can't get you in that position, then we've got to regress down.
Welcome back to another Rest, Eat, Move podcast. This is Chris today, and I have a special guest for you today, and his name is Justin Grinnell. And I've known Justin for probably at least, I would say, going on 20 years. And he is one of the, I truly believe, one of the leaders in the health and fitness space. He has his own private facility called State of Fitness. And he's going to teach you a little bit more or talk to you a little bit more about that. But what I love most about Justin is his energy and passion for this business. And to know what he's had to go through to make his business successful, if he wasn't that passionate about it, he probably wouldn't be in it today. And I think that's the challenge we face sometimes in the health and fitness arena, is how do you make a living for something you love? So anyway, welcome my friend. Thanks for spending some time today. I know you have a very busy schedule. You're opening a new facility, actually coming up here November 1st is what I heard. You know, I know you played on a state championship basketball team.
Yeah.
You and I competed in a bodybuilding contest at the same time. Obviously, you were in the younger division than I was.
Your masters.
But just kind of how did you get started in this field? A little bit about what you're doing today. How your business is growing, and then we'll get into the weeds a little bit with everybody.
Yeah, like you said, you know, I was an athlete in high school, and you know, a good athlete, but not one that was probably going to go on to the next level necessarily. But you know, how it really started is I got hurt, you know, my sophomore year in high school playing football, and at my school it was big time to make the basketball team. So in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be able to play. What do I do? Well, the athletic trainer at the time, he's a very good athletic trainer, said, hey, if you really battle back, you can play. And so that meant rehab and fitness. And so I really started taking fitness seriously, lifting weights, taking care of myself. And I think at that point, I haven't even eaten a salad before in my life. So I started eating more vegetables and just trying to make that big makeover, because I just didn't feel that good either. And so that kind of started my journey of, wow, this makes me feel good if I treat my body better, put some better things into it, and start to work out. It gave me some confidence. And from there, I just kind of, you know, caught the bug. I just was always wanting to work out. And into college, I'm like, well, what am I going to do? I'm not in athletics anymore. And, you know, I saw an ad in a bodybuilding magazine about a ISSA certification. I'm like, well, I could do that like in the summer when I don't take classes. And so that's where it really started. And I started working with my brother. I didn't know what I was doing at the time, but probably better than he did at least. He was going to try to go to the minor leagues. He was playing at Western Michigan University, the place where you went. And he's like, man, you're really good at this. And so from then on, I was like, I'm going to be a trainer. And so I started on the west side of Lansing called Go Work Out. It was a place that I grew up going to, so I'd known the owners. They're in a transition, and you know, they happened to need a trainer, and I still had no idea what I was doing, but I'm like, I'll do whatever you guys want. And I started training, getting reps. And then a few years later, I reached out to you guys at the MAC and said, hey, because then, you know, when you were there and what I would think all-stars were there, is that was the place to go. You know, that was, if you want to be a successful trainer, you know, in the state of Michigan, you go to the Michigan Athletic Club. And that's where you have a lot of clients. You can make money as a trainer, because I was working for pennies at the time. And so you and many other folks had set up a system like, hey, we can get trainers a viable income and they can have a really good, successful career. And so that's always been in my head. And I like to think I'm kind of starting that over in my own facility, trying to find a way that you can get trainers to enjoy their job, not work too crazy hours, even though, you know, training's a little bit different. You have to wake up early sometimes, and show them they can stay in it in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. Because, you know, Chris, there's not a lot of trainers out there, you know, your age especially, and not even really my age. I mean, we have some in our town, but there's not a ton. And so that's the quick story. And, you know, I still remember, Chris, when I walked in the MAC and you and Jason were like, you know, this playground is yours. It's what you make it. If you want to go out there and you know, go for it and get clients, they're right there. You know, you weren't necessarily pointing other trainers out, but hey, you can really kill it here if you want to. Just do the things that other people are doing.
Yeah, and I remember when you first came in, you just didn't have your degree, and I kind of said, hey, you know, I'd love to, but you got to go back and do some of the work, and you did, and you came back, and then you became probably one of our busiest trainers for many years. But yeah, you were like, I'm not giving up here. I need to get a little bit more seasoned because you were pretty young at the time.
Yeah, like 20, I think, 21.
Yeah, 20 or 21
Yeah.
at the time. And then you came back and you were very successful. And so then you started saying, okay, this is where I'm at. I'm doing really well. But you had a vision of doing something on your own. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so when I was at the MAC, I started those boot camps, they were called, group training, and then some sports performance. I'm like, wow, okay, I can monetize my time, train people in groups, and maybe make a little bit more money per hour. But then I started looking around the country and seeing, wow, other people are doing this in a training setting. Well, I at first thought, okay, we could do this at this big health club. Well, there's a lot of loopholes to jump through, and it just wasn't going to happen, at the time. And at that time, you were kind of not in it as much. You were transitioning, really growing on Target Living, and not really integrating the MAC as much. And so I was like, man, I have to do something different. So a mutual friend of ours, who I'm now building with again, Pat Gillespie, said, hey, let's sit down and let's talk about a couple things here. Maybe you could do something different. And I think that was, at that time, I think it was really starting to build his kind of empire, if you will, of, okay, I'm going to build something cool in Lansing. And so he just gave me a nudge and said, hey, maybe you should go out on your own, and here's some opportunities. It was during that 2009 where, the economy wasn't as good, and, there was some good buildings open. And so we took some trainers, and, of course, my former partner, Rebecca Klinger, couldn't have done it without her. We said, hey, let's give it a shot. And because we felt the mojo had left a little bit when you had been gone, and Jason and some other folks, and let's go start this and see what we can do. And, that was something that, I set out to do, in 2010. And now it's just, it's changed so much in the last 13 years or 12 years. And how can we make it even better? And that's what we're going to try to do with this new facility is I want to do it to where our trainers can stay longer, get paid better. And we really go back to our focus. I'm kind of skipping some things here, but private training and small group training. There's only a select number of few people who can afford those, more people, small group, but the trainer needs to get back to the training. And I think that through the whole model of group training, franchises have come in. And what we've seen is, lower quality training. You can't really stick 20, 25 people with all these different issues in a group and have them do a bunch of high intensity exercise and think it's great. And we also are getting trainers in the industry that are saying, I don't want to train a bunch of people once I feel like a group fitness instructor. So with that short summary, we're going to narrow down our focus on the individual, have less members, give them more service so that they really get to their goals and really, again, integrate some more of the lifestyle nutrition pieces. We felt like we got away with that a little bit, trying to manage too many things, and we weren't really getting to that client as much as we want.
So your new facility, your new state of the fitness facility, you opened November 1st.
Yeah.
Correct? And you've kind of like, okay, let's get a little more focused here, a little bit smaller groups. Is that what you saw? If that's what you see, plus the private training?
Yeah, big time. So one of my friends, Rick Mayo of Alloy, he's been doing this quite some time, and he kind of saw that as, okay, we can't do everything for everybody. Large group, small group, mid-level group, all these different things in training. It's like we're getting away from the actual client and getting them the results they need. Yeah, we can get them a good workout, but it's more than just the workout. We know that. And so we saw some industry trends where first the trainers, we get a lot of interns for our intern program, and we even get some from, like, let's just say an F45 or Orange Theory, where they're like, you know what, we're not learning to be a trainer. We're not connecting with the people. We're not able to talk about nutrition or lifestyle, personal stuff, take care, help them with their injuries, etc. So I was like, okay, this is a trend here. And then,
so that's the trend you're seeing.
Yeah.
It's more, not necessarily specialization, but a lot more personal.
More personal.
And looking at the bigger picture. I mean, I got your internship packet right here.
Okay.
Which is incredible.
Oh, thank you.
And so one of the things I love about it right away is that you're looking at, like, okay, we can train these big groups and you can run them through a workout, but the bottom line is, how do we get better results? Well, I got to pay attention to their sleep. I got to talk about what they're eating, what their injuries are, what their limitations are, where do they want to go. So that allows you to do that in your new facility.
Yes, we can take 4 people that, that's our 4 people as our max in our session, and say, okay, we have a workout templated, right? We know the human body needs a lot of the same things, but it's got to be regressed, progressed, and modified, because someone comes in with a shoulder this, knee that, they're new, someone's very fit. How can we train them in a group and give them a good serviceable, modified, progressive workout? Because the small group really helps people come more often and allows the price to be a little bit lower.
Sure, yeah.
Because not everybody can do private training.
Correct.
But within that system, everyone has a half hour we call on-point strategy session. That's a check-in with the trainer. How are we doing on our goals, whether it's sleep, nutrition, training, whatever it is. And also having a smaller facility allows us to really connect with people more, because everybody's kind of training together in a way. When we have our current facility, we're not really, the synergy wasn't there as much as I'd like it to be, and I think we need to get back to that.
And you think some of the people that are doing privates obviously would do the group too?
Yeah, if they can do that. So like, say for example, someone
might be private for one session a month, and then I'm going to do the group on top of that.
Exactly, because we want to get them in there more often, because we know a workout with us is going to be better than on their own. Now we're going to encourage them to do things on their own.
Sure.
We want daily things, right?
Right.
Like whether it's stretching, foam rolling, some yoga movements, whatever it is. But we want to get them in there. So for whatever their income level is, or where they want to spend, is okay. We'll do a private, and that, say you're my
Sure.
client, Chris, and we have our thing going and we have our goals, but I can't see you all the time, and maybe you don't want to do it all the time. See you once a week, and then you're going to go into a small group, say twice a week, and so. We train as a team, a real team. So while we have clients individually, we all can train each other within a way of, if I'm gone on vacation, I can give my client to train with someone else type
Sure.
of thing.
Yeah, you're great in that. So do you see more and more people that, like you used to have large groups, but how do you get, let's just say somebody that's a very fit person and you have another, so how do you get that 4 person together? I mean, anybody can pop in, right?
Yeah, they have to sign up ahead of time. That everybody has to come in. They have an orientation.
But you can't always control who's coming into it, correct?
No, you can't, because people sign up for that slot, right? For the 4 people. And so, for instance, okay, let's just say for the lower body movement, it's a squat, right? We may have a high intensity, no injury person that can do a barbell squat. Okay,
Sure.
Great. If they can do it proficiently, then we'll let them do it. Well, some people can't. Maybe they have like a goblet squat, just holding onto a dumbbell, doing some squats, and maybe they just are learning. Maybe
Sure.
we're just having them squat down to a bench.
Right.
And by having that in there, we have an app where everybody has their profile, and so the trainer will know where they're at. The person knows where they're at. Yeah, and so
So you can customize that even because you have a smaller group.
Yeah, exactly.
And many times, I love the idea of you got 4 people, you might have somebody a little bit more fit,
Yeah.
but also kind of raises the whole tide up.
Yes.
So everybody can see what's possible or, whatever. So I love that thing. So a new business, all excited on you and Katie are really jacked up about this new opportunity in our community, which is great. One thing I love about our community more than ever, Matt put together the whole health professionals getting together, but there's a lot of synergy with a lot of the training in this community where nobody's really hoarding, and I love what your philosophy is, and this is my philosophy way back in the day, that there's such a demand for what we're talking about, prevention and health and fitness, but it's many times difficult for a health professional to make a living. And you're looking at it like, I'm not just counting reps, I'm not just this, I'm looking at your greatest asset, and that's your overall health. And I think that's the philosophy when I see with your internship, this is a book, And so I look at it, you're covering all the grounds, you're showing in the exercise, you're showing everything. But if I'm a new person coming in this field, I want that training. I think a lot of trainers are dying for this information. You go get a certification, that might be one thing, but as you know, how many years have you been doing this?
Yeah, it's 21. So
you've been doing it 21 years. And so go back in time a little bit about, like, what was your philosophy when you first got in about health and fitness? What was your philosophy day one?
Well, it was like bodybuilding, right? That's all I really knew. That's how I came, strength conditioning for sports, which, no one really gave me a ton of direction. You just kind of figured it out. And, your football coach said, do this, do that. But, it was just like bodybuilding. So while bodybuilding maybe isn't what everybody should do, they had a lot of concepts, right? Drink lots of water, eat high quality food, get your workouts in. So I had known that, but I think I only knew it as that high in that intensity. No one can go at that intensity. So I had trouble in the beginning really getting people to understand, people need to start here and not go there. And that's where it was at before. And now it's totally different. Probably more similar to you, Chris. You kind of came up and did a bunch of things, and now you're like, you know what? It just needs to really be this, and it doesn't need to really change that much.
The stupid stuff we used to do.
Yeah.
The weight belt, the wraps around our knees. How much weight can we push? Yeah.
Yeah, you learn those lessons for sure.
We had a bunch of bad lessons over time. So I got a couple of questions for you. So again, it sounds like your business. I mean, I know what you're doing. That's why I want to have you on the podcast, kind of share some of this thing. But what do you see right now? A new person walking in the door, what are people looking at when you see the world today, especially in the United States? What advice are they looking for? I mean, many people want to get in better shape, right? Yeah. But what are they really looking for? I mean, when you break it down, you have that assessment, you look at strategies and goals, what are they looking for and what gets in their way?
Yeah, so before, people were looking for weight loss, right? Most people want a weight loss. Now we're getting more people that say, you know what, I just need to feel better. I need to feel better. Yes, I maybe need to lose a few pounds, but I have blood pressure this, blood glucose that. I don't have energy, and so I need to feel better. Oh, and my knee hurts and this and that. So you're getting people that just are tired of feeling low energy and in pain. The biggest obstacle is understanding how to weave it in your daily regimen. Time is always going to be a huge factor. And most people, when they quit or stop, say, I just don't have the time. And so time seems to be the biggest factor, but I don't know if it's an excuse or maybe it is time. But I think that people don't look at their body as their biggest asset. They're thinking about, I need to make more money, or they're going to drop what they do and do stuff for their kids. And they just get back in that conundrum of, I'm going to keep doing what I was doing before because it's easier. I think also people think that they need to do too much at once, when we know it just takes a couple things to start. And I think people think they need to do these big overhauls of, I'm going to work out 5 days a week, I can change my diet, go keto, go paleo, whatever. And it really is just trying to do these small things over time. When someone asks me, hey, how do you get in such good shape? I said, I'm just doing the same things over and over again for a long period of time.
Just blocking and tackling over a period of time.
Exactly.
So if a person comes and says, I just don't have the time, what would be, how do you try to kind of motivate them or inspire them, or how do you create behavior change? I mean, I think that's the greatest challenge we face here at On Target Living is, I want to feel better, but are you willing? We always talk about it. Are you ready? Able, willing.
Yeah.
The ready, I'm ready, and I might have the skills, I might be able, but here comes the willing.
Yeah.
How do you get them? What are some of your go-to things to help motivate people to get them going, keep them going? Because like you said, I like what you said at the very beginning. A lot of it has to do with basic concepts and just repeat them over and over and over.
Yeah.
And if you do that, like compound interest and saving money, it's no different in your health. So what are some of your strategies you do to say if I don't have enough time or I'm losing motivation? What do you say to them?
As I've gotten more older, more mature, I'm not as hesitant to tell them it's going to be a little bit hard. So I just started taking guitar lessons with my son and an instructor at Okemos Music Academy. And he put it very simply. He's like, look, you guys aren't going to be very good for the first 6 months to the year. If you can accept that, then you're going to be okay. And it's just I just need 10 minutes a day. And he said 5 minutes of playing what I ask you to, and 5 minutes just messing around. And I'm like, wow, that stuck with me. And I'm like, I've accepted that. And I've accepted that I don't need to do a ton. He's not expecting a ton from me, but he just try to stay consistent and understand that it's going to be a process. Mm-hmm. And so getting people to understand this is going to be a process, and it's a process for the rest of your life. Yes, it's going to be a little hard at the beginning because we've got to set up some habits. We've got to get used to this cycle, this regimen. But letting them know, hey, this is going to take time. I'm not going anywhere. We're going to do some small things. I'm going to keep asking you to do the same things over and over again. If you don't do it, no big deal. Let's start today. Trying to lower that barrier of expectation. I think that clients and members come to trainers, maybe a little bit nervous. They don't want to disappoint.
Sure.
Maybe they see us as real fit kind of health freaks. And so they don't want to, feel awkward. And so, like we have Lori, who has been a great trainer for us. She's our training director now. She spent 20 years at the Veda Institute teaching and doing hair, but she has a warmness about her that lowers that barrier for folks, so they're not intimidated. Because people are intimidated,
right.
Even in this day and age. So lowering that barrier, let them know it's going to be a very slow process and it's just a couple habits.
When I like the process thing, because you get people all the time like, I'm not losing any weight. I'm not losing, the weight's not coming off.
Right.
And what are you going to tell them? Well, okay, if you just follow, are you following the process? Well, no. Well, how do you think the weight's going to come off? You know what I mean? So it always gets into that, like, let's really fall in love with the process.
Yes.
How do you get people to fall in love with the process?
I think it's different for everybody, but I've got to get them to feel good. They've got to feel how good the workouts are. I've got to get let's just say someone has bad digestion, right? And we do a couple things to change that we know are going to work. If they start to feel better, it just gives them that little extra spark. And just keep trying to find what's going to give them a little bit of inspiration to keep going. So for example, I have a guy that, he's a big guy. He's real busy, restaurateur guy. And, he was in pain. And finally, we're getting him out of pain and he's getting good workouts. You can start to see him get a little more energetic and he's working a little bit harder. I'm like, you're starting to feel better, aren't you? He's like, yeah, I really am. I'm starting to feel good. So if I can get them to feel good, they want to keep going. I just can't keep them going back to feeling really bad, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because if you ever felt good and in shape, you don't really know what you're working for. But to get someone to that point, it takes a long time. And so just trying to let them know this is not a 12-week, 6-week thing. That's why we don't do any more fat loss challenges anymore. We did a couple back in the day, and they're a mess.
Right.
People come for 4 weeks, then they leave, and it's just like, what are we doing here? So trying to get them to that point is real hard.
Well, I think one of the things I like what you said at the very beginning, you're not gonna be great in the first 6 weeks or 12 weeks. Yeah. It's going to be uncomfortable. I'm not going to see a lot of changes. I remember I was working with a guy at the Mac years ago, and he was like, I'm not losing any weight, and he's upset, I said, well, how's your blood pressure? Well, I'm off my blood pressure medication. Well, how's your, energy? Well, my energy's better. How's your sleep? Well, I don't snore anymore. But I had to remind him of all the things that he's gaining versus just in the weight, as will just naturally happen. But I think people have to be reminded, and many people, we talk about this all the time, many people don't know how good they could feel. Mm-hmm. But when they start feeling better, and remind them, how did you feel? I like that self-talk. I was going for a walk with Tracy Marino the other day with our dogs, and one of the things I was talking to her about, I said, one of the things I loved about Tracy is she always wasn't what she was, the X's and O's she was teaching, it was how she was thinking. I said, if you can get people to think a little bit differently and really look at what they're gaining, like I have to go move my body. I love what you just said. Hey, 10, 15 minutes to play the guitar or whatever it might be. If your instructor said, hey, I got to do it for an hour, probably you and your son may not do that.
No.
But if you said 5 minutes playing around, 5 minutes of practicing, it's no different than what we talk about.
No.
And if you can get people to have that self-talk, because I think that's the biggest, I just don't have an hour today. You don't need an hour.
No.
What if you just can do this, and maybe you have a little bit longer session here and there, but that's how they're thinking. I just don't have that much time, hence I might as well just not do it.
Yeah, it's easy just to, say, you know what, I just don't have time for it. I got so many other things to do. You got to get them to, so we have some mutual clients, right? And one guy, Scott, he now feels, he remembers what he felt before, and he doesn't want to go back.
Right.
Getting people to a certain point where, I have to do this or I know I'm not going to feel very good. Mm-hmm. And when you start having people say that, I had someone come back from Disney World today, and I trained them, and they're like, I was so ready to get back. I want to stay there and have fun, but I felt different, out of my regimen.
Not the same, out of my plan.
Yeah, so that's a hard thing to get people to. I think some people also will give up a little bit, especially as they age. Like, this is just the way I'm going to feel. This is just it. It's part of the aging process, but it's really not. And I think educating people on, I like that there's some goofy stuff in the whole longevity field, but there's some great stuff too. So I think people are looking at fitness and health a little bit different than just weight loss, and that's what we battled for a long time.
How do you get your group or your individual clients or even your instructors, how do you get people to stay in the moment? I think that's a big deal. Like when you're in the moment, like I know when you and I, we've worked out together, we played together, but how do you get people to be more in the moment?
You know, I mean, I struggle with that sometimes myself, you know, because you're thinking about a million things. We have too many things coming at us. You know, Matt and Kristen, we're raising kids in a world where there's just so much going on. I don't know how we could solve that problem, but I think people are so overwhelmed with everything to stay in that moment. Everybody's personality is a little bit different, but you know, when we're at the workout, what I tell my clients is, let's just focus. You know, I know you didn't do good the other day. Let's just focus on this workout right now. It's all we can do. And I'll say that a lot because they'll come to me in the morning or whatever it is and say, oh, I ate like crap. I didn't get any workouts in. You know, we're starting today. That's it. So I can do that. But, you know, like for example, my son had basketball and football this weekend. Some kids had basketball, football, and baseball. So these parents are running around town going crazy. And, you know, and what are they going to grab? You know, they're going to grab something or they're not going to eat at all. So, you know, we don't set ourselves up for that success, but I keep telling folks, if you get your workouts in and feel your body, you're going to be able to do that stuff better. And sometimes that'll get them thinking, okay, maybe that's true.
I always like to think to myself that one of the greatest benefits of moving in my body is what it does for my mind. So for me, and I try to, you know, explain that or share that with my clients, that when you start moving your body, time kind of disappears, you kind of washes the brain. Do you kind of feel like that yourself?
Oh, yeah. Big time. So I think that there's been some good stuff in media. You know, people look at the mass media and that's sometimes what they think is true. But I like that, let's just say the Wall Street Journal comes out and says, you know, the best thing to decrease Alzheimer's is exercise. And that really hits some of those older population folks. And I like that because it's true. And they're seeing that, wow, you got to really work out for your brain, not necessarily for your body, because something that's more scary than anything is, you know, having some type of neurodegenerative disease. And so, and the best thing we know, and it comes time and time again, is exercise.
Yeah, movement.
So, you know, so guys like me and you are like, I can't believe people aren't doing this. Because it's pretty scary. It's a scary thing to have, right? And especially because they're starting to come out with research that this stuff can start onsetting 10 to 30 years before. And yes, we have genes, but we turn on those genes, you know, depending on what we do. And so I think there's a shift, but again, it's going to come back to we got too much going on, too much time, and are we making that important enough?
How do you get people to prioritize their health?
How do you get people to prioritize their health? Well,
I mean, if you're out to dinner, you run into some people you don't know, maybe a new member, you're sitting down with them for the first time. How do you get them to prioritize or create some importance? I mean, because if you don't have it, you don't really have anything.
Yeah, you don't. And well, one thing that this may relate to this, Chris, but what I'll ask first is, you know, what do you have time to do? And, you know, I'll have them do now like a food log, and I'll say, well, I'm looking and say, well, what do you think you can change? So I'm trying to put more balls in their court, and I'm helping them guide them through it. But if I just say, okay, here's your food log, cut this, take that, add this, do that, they don't really do it. So I put it on and say, what do you think? What could you cut? Or what could you add right here? Or how, you know, okay, here's your day. I've done some things with clients that are, here's your days of a week. You know, where can you fit that 11-minute workout in? So I keep trying to put it towards them.
See, I think that right there is gold, because now you're letting them design their own world versus, you know, sometimes I think the big mistake I've made over the years is like, why would you eat that? And why don't you move your...
Right, because they already know they're failing.
I've probably done that with my family members. So let them...
Yeah.
What do you... Because I think when you put it in that, you're kind of more of the guide. They're the hero. But now you're putting it in their lap. I love that idea. I mean, I have a few clients that I need to do more of that, where I'm like, you tell me what you think you should be doing.
Yeah.
Versus me telling you what you should be doing.
Well, sometimes I think we can use some analytics that can help, because, you know, you've always been a big proponent of, let's get your blood work drawn. And I have no, you know, fear of asking someone to do it. Like, I'm not a doctor, okay? I'm not going to be able to diagnose, treat, cure, prevent anything necessarily, but these numbers really don't lie too much.
Right.
You know, let's take a look at them and ask some good questions. And we just invested in something called an InBody. And it's a pretty cool medical grade scale. You know, it costs way too much, but it gives us all these data analytics. Now they see, okay, well, I got a lot of visceral fat. Well, what's visceral fat do? Well, that's not really good for your organs. And so I'm not just the one telling them. We're trying to get other analytics to open up their eyes and see. And also there's some stuff like, you know, really thanks to you too, Chris, is, okay, well, we need some nutrients. We know the human body needs minerals, chlorophyll, omega-3s, vitamin D, etc. And so that's where the products that you guys sell are so easy to sell to them, is because, hey, look, you're not getting any of these. And nutrition isn't just about feeling full or getting a meal in necessarily.
Right.
If I get you to get some good nutrient-dense foods to help your cellular health, and it's so simple, will you do it? And to most people are like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so that we start there with some habits, and we just show them the evidence. Like I didn't write the rules, so I'm just the guide to show you what the rules are.
And you're kind of looking at a bigger picture maybe than when you first opened. Would you agree?
Oh, big time. Because when you first start, especially when you're younger, like at the time you're trying to grab onto anything you think is going to get a customer in the door, because you got bills to pay. And plus, I love fitness, and I like to try everything out. I'm a consumer of fitness and health too. Even if I didn't want to follow a carnivore diet or paleo, I've tried it to see how it feels, so I can talk to that person about how I felt doing it, or the exercise thing. And so now it's like, you know what? I've just got. It's getting better and better. I just want to be me, and I know these things work.
Right.
And so we're just going to do these.
Make it simple.
Yeah, and if you see that over there, that whatever gym's doing this, whatever trainer's doing that, or whatever health nut's saying this, that might be good, but that's just not what I'm doing.
But your foundation, I mean, when I'm looking at this manual for your interns, I mean, you're covering everything. I mean, you're covering progressions, you're covering injuries, you're covering nutrition, sleeping. I mean, you're covering it all. I mean, it's like, if I was a new person in this field, I'm like, I'd want to come here because now I have this amazing training, but also I have the hands-on experience. It's kind of the best of both worlds. And I think more and more health professionals are looking for that kind of area. I had a couple other questions for you. So if you looked at, let's get into just a couple things real quickly here. So how has COVID affected State of Fitness?
Well, it really did affect us quite a bit, because we have compared to some other gyms, we have a large training staff, people that it's their full-time job. This is their livelihood. So that was very important to me. I could be a trainer forever, but without other trainers, I'm not really a business owner. And so,
yeah, I mean, you could be crushing it on your own privately, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm training a ton right now. I'm reducing since we're opening, a new place, but you can only train, 50 hours a week for so long. So I had to take care of our folks, and that was great. So we kept that unit really good. Right. But we spent a lot of money in the process, and so we had to see, okay, how we can't do what we were doing before. And that was one thing for the move, is we have to change our business model. We have to change what we charge. We have to change the services that we give, and or condense them. And we needed to narrow our focus on what customer we wanted. Because when we wanted the customer that was a little more serious, wanted to put a little more money into it, but we were also trying to grab some of the people that wanted to spend just $109 for unlimited group training, and that just wasn't, unfortunately, our customer. Right. We're glad to take anybody, but some people just are willing to do certain things over others. So we really had to change that.
So you kind of narrowed your tribe down and really get focused on who do you really want to service.
Yeah, and what we do, and go back to our roots, is that's personal training. Because people call up things classes, and we're like, well, we don't do classes. We do personal training. Right. And so we want to get back to our roots.
I love that idea. It's personal training. It's not just a big boot camp.
No, we have private training, small group, personal training.
Right.
And that's what we are. And I think that, two things here is, I think that we need to be looked more as a higher level professional. We right now we're still in this kind of, are you a fitness instructor? Or people don't get this as much, but when you started training and I started training, they said, well, what else are you gonna do?
Right.
Are you gonna do a training forever? And so
what's your real job?
Yeah, what's your real job? And we don't want people to have second jobs, right? We want to be able to make an income off that. And also the one thing that Matt created the mastermind is, people are like, wow, you're in a meeting with some of your competitors. I'm like, yeah, but these are really good professional competitors. Correct. And we know if our industry gets better as a whole, correct, we're going to have more people in it. We're going to be able to charge more. And, it's just like any other industry. Yeah,
when I first started training at the MAC, which we opened I started in 1990, personal training was, I remember on the west side of the state, went over to the MAC in the Grand Rapids area, and the personal training was all part-time trainers.
Yeah.
and I was driving home with Walt, and I'm thinking to myself, this makes no sense because all these part-time trainers have other jobs. They're not looked at as a professional.
Correct.
They're counting reps, you're, this and that. And I came back and I thought, you know what, we got to put together a training program, and we got to create an environment that people can make a living, and they can make a good living because they're changing people's lives. And the more expertise, I kept thinking, the more expertise we could plug into that, helping people with their back pain and their sleeping and their numbers, and the list goes on, that's valuable.
Yeah.
And so what you're seeing right now, I think, to me, that's the future. You're going to see a very high level, educated, skilled professional that can help you with all these different things that are probably as important as anything you have in your life.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, how can it not be the most important thing in your life? And one thing I think that the consumer needs to remember is, we're still people as trainers, and so there should be a lot of empathy and sympathy going towards that person. Like right now, I'm not getting the sleep I want, and stress is high.
Right.
And I know the stress is we're temporary as far as how high it is, but I'm working my schedules. I'm always working on stuff. So I think if trainers also can be empathetic and sympathetic with their clients and show some vulnerability, they'll say, okay, cool. This person isn't just a fitness nut trying to take me through a workout. This is a real person with real things that go on in their life, but they're helping me through it.
And I think that's a really, because now you have, one of the things we used to talk at the MAC way back in the day, but if you looked at the business of the MAC, it was members. Mm-hmm. So how do you create retention of your members? And I used to tell Carl Porter all the time, your personal training program runs your club. Because if you have amazing health professionals having these amazing relationships with their clients or their members, they're not going anywhere.
No.
And that's what you've realized over time, that I'm creating a relationship, and that relationship's not only a dominant, and I tell my clients all the time, I struggle with the same crap you do. And they're like, you do? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when I ruptured my patella tendon, my clients came back to me after that and they said, you've changed. I'm like, what do you mean I've changed? You're nicer. You're more compassionate. Your stuff doesn't stink. You know what I mean? So I thought to myself, did I portray that? But I must have to a certain, but it wasn't one person. But I think the more vulnerable you become, and tell me you have the same challenges. Like like I was training the other day with Walt, and one of the things he was telling me that he goes, you need to share this with your clients. You have the same mobility, flexibility. You're going to be 65 years old. They have the same challenges. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but they don't recognize that. So I think what you're seeing right now, that relationship, that you're not some super freak, always eating, salads and lean, mean stuff, right? You have everybody has the same desires, and I think that's the relationship you have when we create that personal environment, that personal training environment.
It just creates a better trusting relationship, as opposed to, and again, when I talk about other fitness facilities or business models, first and foremost, if people just move and get to a gym, that's a win, right?
Correct.
That's a big win. But some of the places just aren't set up for that. It's sign up, come in, and they'll have some community events and have some fun, but they're never really diving into that person and what they really need to do for their life and their lifestyle as far as fitness and health is concerned. Or you have, what I liked about when I was at the Michigan Athletic Club, it had more of a hometown feel. And so people will trust those trainers within the club because they had more than just a dollar sign in mind, where there's some big clubs that we've sent interns to. It's like, it's just all about the sale, all about the sale, all about the number. Well, if it's all about the sale and number, you can't get into the person because you're just worried about the next sale. And so a lot of business models run off that. And even some that I've consulted with, or even some people I went and saw talk, and say, oh, here's my business model.
Right.
I'm like, well, you're kind of getting away from what you're really supposed to do. And you're being salesy. I'm going to sell people with, the results that my clients are getting, and they're going to go talk to those people. I don't need to do any selling.
You don't need to have a jillion people. You need to have the grassroots and keep building your new business. So, all right, a couple other things before we get this, because this has been great. So when you think about some of your training philosophy, if you looked at what are you doing today, let's get into the weeds a little bit about strength and cardio. what are some of the things that you have changed your mindset a little bit about, which most people need?
Yeah.
So if a listener or a viewer is watching this right now and you're instructing them with 21 years experience, thousands of hours, training, new interns, your staff, what do most people need when they come in? What would be some simple things that most people need to do to be, which I love what you said at the very beginning, to feel their best?
Well, I think that first and foremost, I kind of boiled it down to two words: position and tension. So position is going to be like, where's your posture at, your alignment? Can I get into certain positions, that the human body needs to get in, whether it's on all fours properly, maybe even a crawling properly, squatting up and down, getting up and down off the ground. Let's just call it mobility. They've got to be able to
getting on the floor is a big deal.
Getting on the floor is a big deal. You've got people, some people don't like it.
It's a big deal, right? Okay, so again, positioning is a big one.
Huge. So understanding, some people don't know where they hold their head, or all that stuff. I need you to get in good position. So if you don't know how to get in the right position, you can't deadlift, you can't squat.
So I kind of like that better than posture.
Well, because it defines it more broadly.
It's bigger.
It's bigger.
So positioning is bigger than just posture.
Yeah, because it's a posture.
I love that.
Yeah, so say we're doing like a
positioning. I'm stealing that from you, okay?
Please do. Positioning, so can I get you in the right position? Can I set you up for success in that movement? So can we get you in there? If we can't get you in that position, then we've got to regress down. So if I can't get you to hold on to weight for, let's just say, a squat, let's use the easy example. Well, we got to go back, and get you in a better position from a basic squat, or do things, maybe at a smaller micro level to get them there. And then tension. So one thing I see about tension is, we're speaking more for strength training, right, or core training, is a lot of people don't understand how to engage their whole muscular system. So let's just say, let's just take a simple bicep curl. I could give someone 2 dumbbells and they can go up and down, right, and they can move their arms. They're just flexing, extending their elbow. But if I could get them to create tension in their upper back, in their core, in their glutes, and then do that bicep curl, they're going to get a lot more bang for the buck. And that's for every single movement. And let's just take someone from the powerlifting scene. That's all those guys are doing. Can I get in a good position? Can I create tension to pull this big heavy weight up, or else it's not moving? And we forget about that, I think, as let's just say as fitness folks, working out, because you're like, I'll just do the exercise, I'll just go and do it. So position and tension. So get them in better position, understand tension. Then thirdly, from a cardiovascular standpoint, harder and more is not better. Better is better. So we want some interval training type protocols. That'll be something new we'll have at State of Fitness downtown. It'll be a small group interval training, and it's going to be heart rate and RPE based. So we might get up to that 85-90%, but then we're taking rest to come back down, so we can help that eccentric and concentric contraction of the heart rate. So we want to be more specific with our cardiovascular exercise, not just, all right, I could put together anything and make you breathe hard, but does it make sense?
Yeah, so you're not interested in just redlining.
No.
And I used to talk about this a lot. I love what you're saying. Better's better, harder's not better.
No.
So it's really difficult sometimes. I love this philosophy because a lot of your clients come in and they think if they've gone through an amazingly hard workout, that's better.
Right, all the time.
And then they can barely move the next day, and they hate it, and it's redlining, and the list goes on. So is this something you kind of teach them right at the very beginning?
Yeah, so we're going to think about, we do what's called a functional movement screen first. And so that's just going to give us some good data points of, okay, where's some asymmetries, mobility and stability issues. It just gives us a good, baseline of, okay, what do we need to work on? And where's painful movement present? So if someone has painful movement, well, we just move on from that exercise. We got to find an alternative. If the shoulder's hurting, okay, why is the shoulder hurting? Okay, flexibility, mobility. If we can't help that within a few weeks, okay, you know what, maybe you see a medical professional, maybe there's something deeper. Because, it's like what doctors will say is first do no harm. Well, if I'm having you do something that's hurting you, I've got to be able to have them go to the next day. So Chris, if you come to me as a client and you're like, okay, let's get a good workout in, we'll get a great workout in. But yeah, you might wake up in the morning and say, yeah, I feel a little bit, but can you go today? Yeah, I can go today. Then we did our job. But if you're like, you can have some of those hard workouts.
Sure.
You want to challenge, but it can't be all the time.
Well, and I like the idea of the tension because I think a lot of people don't understand the nervous system.
Right.
And so you'll get a client, I get a client, you'll give them a dumbbell or whatever load you're trying to, and they'll say that's not enough weight. Well, they're not engaging.
Right.
So they're just moving the apparatus or whatever they're moving, but they're not engaging. When you're engaging it, they're like, oh, this is killing me. Mm-hmm. Or like I had a guy last week and I had him hold a couple movements, no weight except his own body weight, because he was complaining that he needed more weight. And I'm like, well, okay, let's stop for a second. Let's get you. And he's going, oh, this is really hard. I'm like, I'm trying to make the point that if you engage, you don't need as much, because if you turn the lights off, nobody knows how much weight. The body has no idea what weight. No idea. Right? It just knows how much tension.
Exactly. So I'm doing that with some high school athletes because numbers, right?
Numbers
high school
are
weight
numbers.
Room. And I'm getting them to buy in. I'm like, look, your body has no idea what that weight is, right? I know your buddy did 400 this, 300 that, but we just did that right rep tempo, getting people to slow reps down.
Yes.
And getting them in the right position, right tension, slow the rep down. He's like, wow, that's so much harder.
So much different.
So that's the body's going to adapt to that. It has no idea.
No, it has no idea.
Getting people to buy into that's really tough.
Right. That adaptation is huge. So, all right. So as we wrap this up, I think you've covered a lot of some of the questions I had for you. I mean, you're doing some amazing stuff in this community. What would be a couple of things you'd like to share that I haven't asked so far? Is there anything else you'd like to cover?
Well, for the local folks, I guess you could say is, one thing that, I would like to do is get Lansing more involved in fitness and health. There's nothing downtown. You and I are both Lansing born and raised, never left basically. And, we've always had, really thanks to you and Carl Porter and the MAC, is on the east side, there's always been great, fitness, I guess you could say, but nothing really in the Lansing area. So I really want to try to help build up that fitness community in the Lansing area. That's something that, is important to me, especially because we're making that move. It wasn't the purposeful thing I wanted to do. It just happened to be that way because we're moving there.
Right.
And now it's become a purpose, right?
Yeah, we're trying to get the whole community healthier.
Yeah. And then also is trying to get the consumer to understand what is a health and fitness professional and what is someone that's just kind of doing this for fun. I don't take it as a hobby, and it's no disrespect to those folks. I think it's great. We need those folks that are part-timers or doing a couple of sessions a week, but training sessions a week, but are working at another job. We need those people to keep it going. But how can we get people to distinguish, okay, this is a real health and fitness professional that deserves the pay that they need? Because
right.
You know this, Chris. We've been fighting how much people want deals from us all the time.
Right.
And I don't ask a lawyer, a doctor, anybody else for a deal.
Right.
I don't ask anybody for a deal. I don't believe in them. But how can we get to that? And that's a mission of mine. Let's say you started it in '91 at the MAC, and we're going to try to keep it going. And say, let's no more negotiations.
One of the things I was telling a guy the other day, I said, of all the people you surround yourself, because I try to help them surround themselves with professionals, whether it's financial or having the right healthcare professional, physician, or whatever it might be. But I always tell them I'm the most important cog of the whole deal because I'm your guide. I'm not your hero, whatever, but I'm going to look at the big picture for you. And so there ain't a deal, bro. So, because I'm going to give you everything I got.
Right.
I'm going to give you everything I got. And if the value is not there, then maybe this isn't a good fit. But I'm going to tell you, I'm going to do lots of stuff for you. So I kind of look at the same thing. Like, I'm not asking my attorney to give me a deal, or I'm going to see my doctor. Hey, can I get a break on my copay or whatever it might be? I think people have to look at this field differently, but we also have to do a better job of training people.
We have to do a better job.
We have to do a much better job of training and educating. And we were talking about this yesterday on our way home from up north, that the two things we're not taught in school is finance and health. But why aren't we? So I think in the healthcare professionals, we used to go back to Jim Collins' Good to Great, the 3 circles. Do you have a passion for what you do? I mean, that's number one for you. I mean, I look at, do you have a passion? Number 2 is, can you you be really good at it, and can you make a living at it? Yeah. That's what's missing, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And keep getting better at what you think about where you're at today, 21 years later. How have you gotten better? I mean, I look at the stuff that I used to do, 35 years ago, and I'm like, wow, when I first started training people at the MAC, I was lousy. But you learn along the way. The stuff that I used to tell them, I'm like, well, that's not really correct. But at the time, we did the best with what at the time. I think we're at that position now where we can help new professionals grow this professional where it becomes high level. I think you're seeing more of that. But I think the general population doesn't know the difference.
No, it's hard for them to know the difference because how could they? We don't have enough trainers like you, Walt, Gabe, that have been in it so long, because to really get good at something, you got to be in it 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years.
Right.
And that's when you say, well, if someone says, well, your time costs that much, well, you didn't do much. Well, you've learned so much and you put so much into that hour because that's years of experience that went into that hour, if that makes sense. You know.
And I think that's why we feel comfortable referring back and forth.
Yeah.
I mean, you're referring tons of people. I refer people to you. You know, the list goes on in our community. But we have that respect that if I send them over to see Justin and his team, I know what they're going through. I mean, here's a manual that's 50 pages long just for your interns. I know the professionalism that's out there. Yes. But I don't think that's what's always happening right now. Hopefully that will grow in the future.
Yeah, we'll fight social media a little bit because it's easy entry. Our field is a very easy entry job. Hard to stay in, but I think we need to create an environment where people can stay in for the rest of their life if they want.
Right, if that's what they want, and really the high level. Any parting shots? Anything else you want to share with our listeners, our viewers today?
Just that, I feel like what we do at State of Fitness, what you guys do on Target Living, is we're not trying to sell anything that is unrealistic. I think if people can understand that it's really going to be the basics done over and over, time and time again, that's what's going to work. It's so easy to see flash this, flash that, but just thinking about making small habits, know it's a process, know that it only takes a few changes to make a difference. And you just have to be able to ride that wave and understand that it's forever. This isn't just 6 week, 12 week, it's forever.
It's creating a lifestyle that you love and can repeat over and over.
And you will mess up, and that's okay.
That's okay. It's all right to fall down a couple times. Hey, my friend, thanks for spending some time today. And I think our listeners and viewers will get a lot of good stuff from what 21 years has shared with you over time. So good luck in your new adventure, and I think you and Katie are on the right path to helping people change more and more lives in our community. So we feel very thankful to have you in this community.
Well, thank you, and we'll continue. We have we haven't even talked about our corporate thing we have going, so that we can dive into that, how we can change corporations, because it's changing. So
yes.
you're maneuvering.
Yeah.
So.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
You too.